Thank you very much. And sustainability, and I accepted this invitation because sustainability is the challenge for the future of the European wine sector. That was what brought me here, and I would like to give you let's say, the view from Brussels and how we see the approach on sustainability in the wine sector. But on this, I would like to rewind a bit in time and explain why sustainability is so important now and what have been the challenges. So basically, where do you come from, where we are, where do we go through? So I would like to start with a very basic assumption, is that the EU wine is a success story. And it is a success story because in the last 10 years there have been major change in the way the wine sector has been managed in Europe. Let me tell you a bit why. In 2008 we adopted a major reform that involved grubbing up very productive and very low quality vineyards, doing away with distillation, several types of distillations and crisis mechanisms, paying to withdraw low quality wine from the market. We created national support programs, basically recognizing the diversity of the European wine sector in the EU and basically addressing the specific conditions of each member state. And we gave a strong push towards quality, to the development of PDOs and PGIs in the wine sector. This meant a radical change in the EU wine sector. Just to give you an idea, today we have 160, the number is not up to date by the way, there are more, but plus 1,600 recognized PGOs and GIs, and 70% of our wine area is under geographical indications. We have in all member states in major wine producers a sharp increase of the value of price per liter, meaning it's true, consumption is going down everywhere, but basically this is made up by the increase in the unit price. Just to give you a very key number, is that we export 12 billion euros of wines from the EU to third countries. I mean exporting outside the Union. This number is, let's say, 3 times higher than 10 years ago. So basically in 10 years we managed to give competitiveness to our wines. So our wine sector now is in very good shape, and it's the jewel of the crown of EU agriculture. But so, taking from here, our objective now is, where do we look ahead? So basically, we think that in the next 10 years, there are 2 big challenges. The first is sustainability and adaptation to climate change, and the second one is adaptation to lifestyle. Citizens' concerns linked to health, consumer information, and food. Just to give you an example, and starting by environmental and sustainability, wine uses less than 2% of the agricultural area, but uses 20% of the total amount of plant protection products. There's a problem here. There's an issue here. We need to address that. We do, in some areas, up to 20 treatments against diseases. Copper has been used for 150 years at very large quantities, all through the wine sector, in several areas. And droughts, high temperatures, irregular climate has been affecting yields and quality. I just show you this data that does not lead a legend. This is a chart prepared by our Joint Research Center that maps out copper presence in soils. And if you superpose a map of the European wine areas, you don't have to explain anymore. There is a problem and there is an issue. All major wine-producing areas in the European Union are covered in deep red. Well, what can be done? There are hybrids. If you see this chart shows very clearly, based on research, public research in France, that hybrids can have an effect of up to 86% of pesticide reduction. So go around and speak to your legislators and convince them to be more flexible in relation to accepting hybrids in viticulture, because they are not so keen on this. I would like also to give some elements about climate change. That is one of the key elements on sustainability. Wine is a major victim of climate change. Droughts, high temperatures, irregular climates are affecting wine through mostly in southern Europe member states. Basically, climate change, it means success for Northern Europe vineyards. Wines are expanding north, whether we like it or not. This is happening. And difficulties in the Mediterranean. For example, I give you very, very key elements that are very important to illustrate what I mean. Climate change is affecting the way the wine system is being constructed. It's challenging the concept of terroir. It's challenging the concept of geographical indications. In the south of Portugal, where I come from, when I was in university about 30 years ago, wine harvest started on the 15th of September. Now we're starting to harvest in the last 10 days of July. This means that the wine cycle has been reduced by 2 months. 2 months in 6, 7. It's very strong. We all know that this has a big impact in the wine quality, because you know that the flavors and the aromas, they developed in the last part of the production process. So what does this mean? This means that other varieties have to be used in order, with a shorter cycle, in order to be able to actually address the same results. But this will have an impact on taste, on aromas, on everything. Another example from my member state, for example, in Douro, producing a famously known port wine, the most valuable land was facing south. Today, mostly all the south-facing land has been abandoned, and farmers are growing up in north-facing hills that are fresher, fresh climate. So basically, what happens then if northern-facing hills is not fit anymore? So all these concepts have to be thought. This is happening, and the wine sector needs to know about it in order to be able to adapt. Technology can help and will help somehow, but it's not going to be enough. Well, I would like to speak about certification schemes, but a bit on lifestyle. Again, this is also extremely important, very much linked to the VIVA concept. There is consumers increasing the demand for lower pesticide products, natural wines, low input schemes, public and private labels are thriving. Private, national, as you have seen from VIVA, and also European, as these ones. You have seen these, know very clearly these three labels. They certify quality and sustainability. These are the only three public labels that exist at European level. But again, on European level, we have no objection, but we really want that private labels and even national labels such as yours, they develop and they actually certify something that the consumer understands as a product that has a higher value added. Okay, a bit on the future. Basically, what do we foresee to address that? We want, and this is not necessarily relating to sustainability, but we still have a planting authorization system that works very badly in Italy, for example, and we want to make sure that the system works better, so allow more plantings, which is a problem, namely in Italy. In our overall CAP planning, there is, in the future, member states will have to establish what we call a strategic plan. The wine sector is going to be fully inserted there with very, very clear guidance towards environment and sustainability. There's something missing here, but again, I spoke about hybrids. We also propose to unlock the research, allowing the possibility of using hybrid varieties. This is fundamental because of the reasons I told you before, for reasons of protecting the environment and addressing climate change. And we want to bring zero alcohol wines and low alcohol wines to a wine family. We have zero alcohol beer, why not zero alcohol wine? Why is the wine sector against it? The wine producers normally tell me, call it whatever you want, but this is not wine. Yeah, but okay, but bring these people within the wine family. This is going to give you a bridge towards consumers. And a clear response towards, against the health ayatollahs that are going to go after you and imposing you restrictions, and you need to address them up front. Just for those who don't know, my future boss, Mrs. von der Leyen, I would go a bit beyond. There are two very important initiatives in her political guidelines. She committed to present what she called a Green Deal in the first 100 days. Well, for the time being, obviously, as the Commission is not yet in place, I cannot speak much about it. We are working heavily on that. And again, a sustainable food policy. This is very important for you, because basically, this will mean a very strong European push towards sustainability and quality. And this would also support all the national initiatives, not just on wines and spirits, for which I'm responsible. I'm also responsible for fruits and vegetables, under which we want to use this initiative fully in order to stimulate fruits and vegetables consumption and the link to health. Oops. Basically, to summarize, we are not idle. We are working actively, and we have an ambitious agenda in favor of the wine sector. We want to maintain competitiveness. We want to maintain what we achieved, but then move to the next step in order to continue making sure that European wines are the best in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, giving us the context for the wine sector, and a little bit of history, but also much more importantly giving us some benchmarks about the future. What is coming, what are the main changes that are happening, not necessarily in the sector but around the sector as well, and the way the impacts the wine sector has on environment, for example, are affecting the future decisions or the way consumers are perceiving the wine products in relation to these impacts and so on. So I think it's important to be aware of this context. Now, everything is connected, so which means that we need to think in a systemic way. When we are looking at sustainability, we need to look at it from with a systemic approach. And I would like to call Mr. De Vivo here for a checkup with your experience, with your more than 20 years of experience in sustainability of value chain systems, and especially food systems. How do you see the political context, and if you can challenge us with a question related to the European political context?
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Onofre, thank you very much for your great presentation. I mean, sustainable agriculture is clearly at the top of your ambitious agenda, and we can see that it protects the environment, supports the rural communities, helps consumers as well. But I would like to know a little bit more about the incentive mechanisms that you envisage in the new CAP to support specifically the development of sustainability protocols and labels in this field, because I mean there is still a lot of work to be done, and this support would be really paramount. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you put my presentation back? Well, thank you very much. As I said, the CAP reform would allow member states to design their national strategic plan for agriculture. And this will basically include all the incentives towards quality. And I manage here the European labels, the European recognized labels. As I said, all these labels started as private initiatives. First geographical indication was organized by the producers in the 18th century. It became a quality label in 1992. Organics started in 1920s, became a quality label in 1992. A lot of private labels are developing, GAP, Demeter, just name it, and public labels like VIVA. All these labels need to gain a European dimension to be certified. So at European level, I do not foresee at short term more than these three, but you have all the structure of the rural development programs that allows sufficient flexibility for all member states to stimulate development of private labels by paying for the costs, by paying for the constitution, by paying for all the structure linked to the creation of a private label, that if and ever it gains a critical mass, it will become something that will be recognizable for the consumer and then supported by the public authorities.
Are there any additional questions? Please.
I am Agostino Macri from one Italian organization, Consumer. Only simple, one question.
Io capisco bene l'italiano.
Very, which is the situation about the labeling of nutrition of alcoholic beverage in Europe? Mm-hmm. Because 4 years ago will be a new label, mm-hmm. But at the moment I don't know. Yeah. It's not.
I didn't speak much about it, but again, it is one of the key areas. It is one of the key areas of our concern. It is the Commission recognized after 40 years of consumer information directives that it was no longer justified to exempt alcoholic drinks for presenting nutrition and ingredient information. This has been recognized, but the wine sector wanted and pushed very strongly to get mandatory rules for labeling of ingredients and calories, ingredients and calories, yes, because they are afraid of market segmentation and national laws. So very clearly, if and when the CAP reform is going to be adopted, there will be clear provisions obliging wine companies to provide on label the nutrition per 100 grams, nutrition information, and ingredients off label using the new technology available on smartphones.
Thank you. You can ask questions also to Professor Capri if you have, or to Mrs. Fiamma, Valentino, about her presentation, and then after this we'll take a break.
Sì, io ho una domanda per il dottor Onofre, visto che capisce l'italiano, posso farla in italiano? Sono Luigi Bavaresco, un docente di viticoltura all'Università Cattolica e anche sono il membro della delegazione italiana all'OIV di Parigi. Volevo fargli due domande sulle nuove varietà resistenti alle malattie, un aspetto molto dibattuto, soprattutto in Italia. Lei pensa che la nuova PAC, la nuova politica agricola comunitaria, permetterà di usare queste nuove varietà anche nelle denominazioni, anche nelle DOC? E la seconda domanda, qual è secondo lei il ruolo che la lobby anti-alcol ha? È un rischio, una minaccia per il vino europeo oppure no? Grazie.
La risposta al suo primo quesito è non penso, sono sicuro. Sono assolutamente sicuro. Possiamo dimenticare le vecchie varietà, Clinton, eccetera. Questo sono aneddotica, non sono 100.000 ettari in Europa. Ma l'importante è permettere l'utilizzazione dei ibridi nelle DOP, perché oggi il 75% dei vini sono DOP. No, nel futuro non ci saranno più vini che o saranno marginali, quindi lì è la vera battaglia. E questo è assolutamente necessario e c'è chiaramente un allineamento tra gli Stati membri e il Parlamento in questa direzione. Il lobby anti-alcol, yes, very strong. There is a very strong anti-alcohol label in the European Union, especially in northern countries, and fighting alcohol consumption, putting restrictions in terms of labeling, including damaging labels for wines. There's a very recent law in Ireland obliging wine sellers to say alcohol causes cancer, which is disputed scientifically. And this is basically within a very dangerous, let's say, development that may happen. That is why the wine sector needs to be aware and be proactive in fighting these dangers. That is why the wine sector cannot hide in providing all the information in relation to calories. There's no justification to provide calorie justification for olive oil, biscuits, yogurts, chewing gums, and not wine. Why? Ingredients. Let's be transparent. Let's go and produce products that people like to drink. I don't like to drink sangria, neither blue wine, nor zero alcohol label, but there are some people that like it. So let's bring these people to our family. So we have to, the strategy according to us to fight these people is not to ignore, is to be proactive and addressing some of the society concerns.
to echo what your last point about the consumption of alcohol. This morning, when in the plane, I picked up the latest issue of the Economist, and there was an extensive article about the fact that the consumption, especially in the Nordic countries, I think the article was based on the data from Nordic countries, that there is a high percentage of the population that is drinking beyond the recommended health limits, and that measures need to be taken. So if you look for the latest issue of The Economist, some very interesting data, and interesting in the way that they were presented. I think they were presented in a way that is a little bit misleading and tendentious, but this is the reality of the
But we have to be careful, because most of these data do not actually relate to alcohol consumption, because they also associate consumption of spirits and beers. And the whole thing needs to be addressed in the same manner. So basically, well, wine is a product of the Romans. As you know, let's say Romans brought wine everywhere, and parts of Europe that have a Roman background have a very strong wine culture and have a totally different way of drinking of the countries under which the Roman armies did not arrive, that are based on beers and spirits. So we should be careful. Wine consumption should take, let's say, we should, and obviously declining consumption is obvious, because 40 years ago, 50 years ago, wine was food. It's no longer food, it's pleasure, it's life, it's culture, it's everything, but it's part of that. But we need to make sure that we increase the value added to compensate, basically by producing under better conditions and more sustainable conditions.